All right, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host, Omar, and we talk about anything related to retail leadership in a boutique environment, right? So think of specialties like wireless retail, AV, appliance sales, things of that nature, things that take you outside of big box retail, where a lot of the actual product that is sold isn't the physical product, but the services that come along with the actual product. Now, part of what we talk about is leading our team to success, how to actually be a leader and not be a manager, not be a boss, right? Give our teams something to not only look forward to, but help them grow and evolve and also grow and evolve our leadership. That's a big one because we want to not just inspire, but we want to equip our team to be able to evolve over time and become better. We're not looking for a big change that's not sustainable. We care about impactful change that's sustainable over time so that we don't regress. Okay. Or if there is some regression, it's not to like a ridiculous level, it's back to where they're sustainable. Remember, people don't rise to the occasion. Okay, it's very rare that somebody actually does that without having the proper training. What typically happens is people fall back to their level or lack of level of training. And that's very important to understand because oftentimes, as a new leader or as a manager trying to figure out what the hell is going on with my people, with my sales teams, why aren't they performing? It doesn't come to all right, how much level or what level of training and development do they have? What kind of coaching have they had? It's okay, they don't know what they're doing, so I'm just going to move on and try to find somebody else that does. When you realize that it actually takes less effort and time to train somebody up, to train and develop them, than it does to find somebody out there that has the actual skill set that you're looking for. Once you realize that, you're able to actually grow at a much faster and steadier clip because you know what is needed, you know what can happen when you actually invest time and energy in training somebody up. That's the big difference. Uh, Now, in today's episode, we're talking about why you don't want to motivate your team. Stop trying to motivate them. Often, what happens as a leader is you default to this rah, rah, rah. You think that if I motivate them enough, that it's going to click and they're going to figure out, and it's just magically going to happen. They're going to end up doing this on their own. Do this instead. If you really want to take your leadership up to the next level, to the next notch, stop trying to just motivate your team. That's not going to be the problem solver. Okay. If you're preaching to your sales teams that, hey, if we just do this, right, trying to be a cheerleader for the entire team, stop that. Stop offering, you know, the cheerleader mindset and start offering the coaching mindset. Be an actual problem solver for your team because motivation isn't going to last. You have to constantly do it. But the issue with motivation, and I've talked about this with like the movie, the book, The Secret, right? They do a lot of feel good stories, but there's no substance. There's nothing that you can actually take and make actionable with steps or a framework that you can actually walk away from. What you want to do with your team is stop trying to pump them up, right, with a bunch of hot air fluff and actually give them something that's going to be useful, that is going to allow your team to evolve and change their efforts over time. They don't need motivations. They need a system. They need a framework that they could actually use. Okay. It's not a people problem that you have when your teams aren't performing. It's that you don't have the right systems in place. You don't have the right frameworks in place to make sure your teams can be truly successful, to make sure that your people can actually become truly successful. You do that by building habits, by installing great systems, and coaching on behaviors. Remember, guys, coachings are not pips, they're not write ups. If you, your team, your company is synonymous with saying, okay, we're going to do a coaching session, and that automatically means a write up, you're you're in the wrong field. You're not a coach. You're not a leader. You're not helping to do anything. And then you turn around and wonder why we have such a high fucking churn rate. Why other companies like McDonald's and fast food restaurants are able to retain their people a lot longer than your company. And you might say, well, it's because it sells. People aren't cut off. Bullshit. People are natural born salespeople. End of story. We are a very, very communicative species. We relate to people a lot better. Okay. We love to be part of a group. We talk to each other. That is sales. End of story. Everybody is a natural born salesperson. Now, some people want to take that as a career and make it what they do. Others don't. That's perfectly fine. The gist of it is no matter what position in life you take, you're constantly going to be trying to sell something. That's the end of story. Okay. So it's not that people aren't salespeople. It's that your leadership or lack of leadership is the reason why your churn is so high. And your organization doesn't have the right foundation to support you in the way that you need to be supported. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently because the companies are still trying to figure it out. One thing I've learned from being part of large companies is that even they don't know what the fuck is going on typically. They're still trying to figure it out. They're still trying to see what works, what doesn't, and change and evolve over time. The difference with a lot of companies that actually end up becoming great is that they understand we don't have an answer for everything and we need to constantly be evolving. And that means that we need to constantly be coaching, training, and developing ourselves and our people to become better because we want to be 1% better than we were yesterday. We want to become just a little bit better because a little bit better is sustainable, it's growable, it's repeatable. We can rely on that. And that's where you start to see greatness because it doesn't take very long to be able to take the basics and be able to use that to actually become a lot better. Okay. Michael Jordan didn't become who he was. Kobe Bryant didn't become who he was by just going to game day and being like, okay, this is when I'm going to get my practice in. This is when I'm going to get my reps in. They were fanatical about what they did off the court so that they didn't have to think about it on the court. That's what we're doing. Game day for us, court for us, right? When we're on the court, is when we're in front of a client or a customer. That is not when we should get our practice reps in. We should have already gotten all that back in a different setting. And as a leader, you need to understand that for your people. Oh yeah, you're gonna learn on the field. You're gonna learn on the sales floor. No. They can reinforce their learnings on the sales floor. They can reinforce their learnings on the field, but give them a structure to actually become successful. Because then all you're doing is you're throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. Whereas if you have a framework, a system in place built, you don't have to worry about that. You know statistically this is what we should be seeing. You have the numbers and the data to show that if we do things this way, statistically speaking, we will be a lot more successful in a shorter period of time. And the amount of production coming from those individuals or from that team, that area, is going to be substantially higher. That's what it means to be a coach. That's what it means to have frameworks and systems in place for training and developing and coaching. That's what you want. Okay. Now, back to today's topic on motivation. If what you're doing is just being a rah-rah rock cheerleader, trying to just blow hot air, because that's what you're doing, up people's ass and trying to motivate them, no, motivation is going to wear off. It makes them feel good. Okay. When you're doing a coaching session, yeah, you might give some motivational tidbits. That's fine. As long as it's going in line with an actual coaching session that's giving them something foundational, that is helping them reinforce a behavior, then yeah. But if you're not doing any of the coaching of it and all you're doing is just motivation, motivation, that's just hot air. You're not getting anything. You're not showcasing anything. You're not helping them sustain anything. And that's going to wear off. And yeah, they may kind of remember the feeling, but remembering the feeling when it isn't tied to an actual behavior doesn't create the behavior. That's the difference. When you have a system in place, they can fall back to that system, to that level of coaching that they had, and they can grow from there. That's the difference because that gives them clarity, that gives them consistency. And when you throw it in with some kind of motivational speech or tidbits, then it ties it together perfectly. But if what you're doing is just trying to motivate, it's just an emotional spike, but it's not sustainable. And then when the behaviors aren't there, there's nothing being reinforced. There's nothing to tie down the emotion to or the behavior to the emotion. That's the difference. So when you go through and you're doing your coaching sessions and you're asking your reps about what their focus is on, right? Ask them what your focus is for today. And then coach, grab that 15-minute framework, use it, and use the visualization section on there, right? The goal, the action steps to help them visualize them executing on what they're focusing on. It can be that easy to be truly successful at being a coach. It doesn't have to be rocket science. Remember, guys, it's not about making things difficult. Any idiot can make anything difficult. You, as a genius leader, want to make things as simple and digestible as possible. The easier, the better, because that's going to help reinforce habits. Now, your teams that are constantly performing, or your individuals that are constantly performing, you're going to realize they have some kind of routine set up, especially when they're in the middle of interactions, when they're meeting with clients and customers. They have their set structure, their framework that they use that works best for them, that they've seen works a majority of the time. Because remember, not everything's going to work every single time. It just is. That's the way things are. It's not 100% foolproof. We just need it to work a little bit more than average, and that makes them winners because that gives them those small wins that they consistently will see. And that's what we want to focus on. So when you're motivating people and that's your go-to, you're trying to create a culture that's dependent on how they feel on moods. It's not giving them a structure to actually win. Because what if they woke up, stubbed their toe out of the bed, right? And you guys know what that feels like. It's just a shitty day. Fucking stubbed my toe getting out of bed. Like, the fuck happened? Uh, but when you have a structure in place, that doesn't matter because they'll be able to fall back to that framework, to that structure to be successful. It's not depending on, man, I don't feel like it today. They know, all right, it's like click word. If you guys don't know what that's from, Robert Cialdini's book. Do I have it? I have it here. I think it might be my other bookcase. All right, here we go. Luffy, grab this book, Influence, right, by Dr. Robert Cialdini. Uh, and you'll understand what click word means. Okay. In it, I'll give you kind of the snippet where it's from. In it, he realized that through some of the research that they had done, there's a species of bird. I think it's actually turkeys. And it takes care of its young, not by recognizing the young, but by the noise that the young make. So what they figured is like, well, would the turkey protect its natural enemy, right? And they recorded what a young chick sounds like, and they put it in a stuffed animal, and they played it. And lo and behold, it fell back to its natural instincts, and it protected that young. It was a stuffed animal, right? I think it was like a fox or something, and it protected that fox because the fox gave the correct sound that it was expecting from its young. And the opposite, if it was a chick that wasn't giving that sound, that chirp sound that they go with, it would try to kill it because it wasn't what it was expecting. So when you have a system in place that your people are trained for, it doesn't matter how they feel, they're going to be able to fall back to that level of training. And that level of training is what's going to help them be successful in what they're doing. So whether your routine is doing, you know, a morning coaching session with the entire team, right? Quick meeting for everybody, whether it's midday check-ins or doing end of day reviews. Every day you want to have some kind of structure that's built so the team can truly become successful at what they're doing. That is what it means for you guys as leaders to actually have the structure in place to train your teams up for success. You don't want to leave things up to chance. You don't want to be like, well, they're going to figure it out. I just got to keep cheerleading them on. Just got to give them a feel good. No, stop with the fucking feel good story. Stop giving them that bullshit. Start giving them something that they can truly be successful with. And that for you as a leader means you need to elevate yourself to become better at being a fucking leader. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm in this position. I'm a little bit in over my head. I feel like I'm treading water. Understanding that you as a leader don't know everything and you as a leader still struggle is perfectly fine. Being a leader means that we are still students. We're not masters. We're still students of leadership. Things change. We have different kinds of personalities that will walk in our door, join our teams, that we will also have to be part of. And it's learning to navigate through that and join them. That's what we want our people to feel. That, hey, my leader is doing everything they can to help support us, to help support me. That's what I'm grateful for. That's what I'm happy for. So I'm going to do everything I can in return. When they know that you're investing time and energy to make them better, that makes a difference. That truly makes a difference in how they perform, how they see their work, how they see their worth as well within not just the organization, but within their place on your team. That's the importance of being a great leader for your people. And that's what you want to focus on. So stop wasting time and energy on just trying to motivate your team to success. Motivation is not a strategy. Motivation is not a framework. It is not a structure. It has its use as a tool within a coaching framework, but it is not the framework for success. Right? If you're wondering, well, Omar, what do I do? How can I get better at being a coach? My organization doesn't have everything I need. I feel like I'm not getting the proper guidance and support from my team. I get it. I've been there. I've literally been part of an organization where they didn't have that. And I ended up creating something that they use nationwide. It's completely doable for you to be able to do something and be able to grow it and expand it within an organization. But you got to start somewhere. I started looking out for myself by going through different mentorship programs. I joined different mastermind groups. If you don't know what a mastermind group, it's pretty much we're a group of like-minded individuals, not the same, right? We were all from different industries, but you're either entrepreneurs, you're leaders, you're coaches, and you meet every so often, and you help feed each other off as far as like ideas, right? I'm struggling with this, and you get the perspective of other individuals and kind of either if they had something similar or not, and get an understanding of how they were successful with it, how they became better at what they were doing, right? Or how they got out of that rut. Or you can share your information, you can share your story about what you were able to do to kind of get out of that rut or, become successful because of whatever issue. Masterminds are great, but I actively look for something like that. And it wasn't something because I understood what it was at first. I joined it because I had been introduced to something similar by a different leader years ago, and I thought it was bullshit. And then I was like, oh, maybe this is onto something. And I started looking for something that was more within my scope, within my field. And I did that. I joined sales programs, leadership programs. I've paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to do that stuff. And do I use every single piece of information? No. I use the information that I learned from those pieces, from those programs, based on what works best for my style and what I see the most results from. And that's what I'm saying about programs. Find something, create something, join something, learn from that structure, take away what works best for you, and start making things of your own. You need to personalize it to your style. And that's a beautiful thing about the framework that I have with that 15-minute coaching framework. Grab it if you haven't already. Check the link in the bio, check the link in the description, depending on where you're watching the video, and use it. Personalize it to your style, and you'll see how you can become successful as a coach by having an actual system. It doesn't have to be super crazy. When it comes to coaching, training, and developing people, the easier it is, the better it is to digest and be able to reinforce the behavior. And remember, we don't focus on doing an 8 hour fucking training in a day. I believe that's fucking bullshit. That shit's for the horses. Okay. Grab that. And if you are going to do an extended training, break it up over several days. Do chunks of information, chunks of training. Okay. When you can chunk that information and they can then turn around and immediately use the information that they learned and see the results, they can reinforce it faster and start creating those habits faster. So when they come to that next coaching session with that other chunk of information that they're going to learn, it's a lot more relevant to what they were learning before, and they can see how it all ties together. And that's where you start to grow and really start building the right frameworks, the right habits within your teams and your people to become successful. So grab the link if you guys haven't. It's a free template to use, and let me know what you guys think from it. All right, guys. I want to say thanks again for taking time and spending it with us here at the Sales Manager Academy podcast. I'm Omar, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.